What's up, comic fans out there? I'm Short of the Max Extreme.
And I'm Ghost Hunter Dave.
You've done it. And this is part one of our Hellboy review, where we tell you everything you want to know about Hellboy, but didn't know you wanted to know, here on IMPERIUS REX.
Is there going to be a part two?
Yes.
All right. Might cut that. Or we'll just go into the theme song.
Today we're going to be talking about Hellboy, if you haven't guessed from the intro, which I just said. You've told me before that Hellboy is one of your favorite stories ever. Can I just go into, like, what made you so drawn to Hellboy?
What I enjoy about Hellboy is just the very, the straightforward approach to the storytelling.
Sure.
I like a lot of the elements that the creator, Mike Mignola, throws into it. Mm-hmm. He's a big fan of, like, the gothic horror authors, like Mary Shelley, Bram Stoker. Mm-hmm. Big fan of, like, the crazy H.P. Lovecraft, like, tentacled monstrosities from another dimension. I don't know, just kind of the fact that he's, like, the quintessential everyman, but he's this huge, hulking, ferocious-looking demon. That's just, like, a regular working-class Joe. Mm-hmm. You know, he's essentially, like, a blue-collar dude that comes in and punches a time card, and his job just involves fighting monsters and, like, slaying dragons. Some heavy shit. Staking vampires. But
before Dave tells his entire life story, let's go into a little background of Hellboy. Hellboy's first appearance was in, actually, The Next Men, not his own book.
No.
In 1993. John Byrne's Next Men.
Right there.
Hey, look at this!
Framed.
Boom!
Mounted.
Look at this! Yeah! I don't think it was this exact book. Was it?
No, that's it.
This is it?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. It was this exact one. In a frame.
It's the only one.
I'm gonna see if I can get this exactly how you had it.
You don't want to glare.
No glare.
Oh. No. There.
I've done it.
Good.
Good enough.
Moving on. All right. So, created by Mike Mignola.
Yeah. And he was
his father.
Yeah, artist-writer combo for a while, too.
Absolutely. Had a long run where he was the only person that touched the character. Mm-hmm. Although, as you said, the initial trade, the first 4 issues, were co-written by John Byrne.
Yeah, he, like, scripted, I think, the first few. And you can definitely tell going in... Well, not that we say, like, it's bad or anything like that, but, like, it's a lot more talky.
Yeah, it's noticeable.
Yeah, than some of the stuff that Mignola just goes off and does his own thing afterwards.
I felt like the first arc of Hellboy, the Seed of Destruction storyline, has a little bit of like a Frank Miller Sin City feel to it. Mm-hmm. Where the art is a little bit more detailed. The character Hellboy is narrating it a little bit like Marv from Sin City.
Yeah, a little bit.
They're both Dark Horse. Sin City was probably right around that time. I think it was probably a pretty big hit. So I could see them kind of following in those footsteps. Or maybe I'm completely off and maybe Hellboy came first.
Who knows?
No idea. There's really no way of checking.
Nope.
But I feel like once John Byrne departed from the book and Mignola took the reins exclusively, it really came into its own. Like, they established the groundwork of the character early on, and I'd be kind of curious to know how much of a role Byrne played in that.
Yeah.
But from then on, like, it truly evolves into Hellboy that we know and love today.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So over the course of 20... I'll be a jump in. Doesn't sound like you had anything important to say.
I really didn't have anything to say.
Sometimes we just talk until someone cuts us off. So, over the course of 22 years, the character has appeared in his own title, along with a multitude of one-shots, tons of crossovers, plus 2 movies, 2 animated films, apparently some video games.
Which I've never seen.
No. They probably sucked.
They're probably garbage.
Yeah. And I think some, like, straightforward novels, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, I would say he has a hell of a run for an indie character.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, if you were to make a list, which I don't know if the internet, I don't know how they feel about lists.
Probably pretty
negative.
If
you're going to make a list about comic characters, maybe a top 100 of all time. I don't know if anyone would ever take the time to do such nonsense.
Who knows?
But you know, you've got your Supermans, your Batmans, Wolverine, Spider-Man, so on. I feel like Hellboy's probably got to be up there in at least a top 10, maybe top 20.
I would say, yeah.
He's a well-known character.
Yep.
Which I would imagine, you know, the average person on the street, whether they know anything about him, could probably look at him and be like, oh yeah, Hellboy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has a very striking figure.
Yeah.
Pared down to just the essentials. You can see his shadow and know it's Hellboy.
Yeah, yeah. He's got a very strong silhouette. And he's asymmetrical, too, which really helps, because, like, his one side is got that big right hand of doom.
Yeah.
So it makes it really off the bat, you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great design.
Great visual.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's funny, too, because over the course of the run, Mignola has just pared the character down to the barest essentials.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where, in, like, the most recent issues, he is almost like a shadow or a statue or just like a random shape rather than an actual detailed character.
Yeah.
And not to like the fault of him at all. Like, it works. Maybe it even makes it a little better because you've got a quicker reading. It helps with the pacing.
I kind of disagree with that. Like, even though his first couple arcs are really detailed, and if you look at it, if you just pick up some later arcs, you can see drastically how his art has changed since the first one. Mm-hmm. But I kind of disagree with you that it doesn't help the story.
Would you say it hurts it?
No, but
so
you know, it's a comic book. No, but it's a comic book, and I'm there for like some of the visual too. And I'm not discrediting Mignola as being a terrible creator or anything like that, but like I kind of want to see a little bit more effort, you know?
Sounds to me like you've got a problem.
I've got a problem with Mignola. I'm calling you out, buddy.
Oh, man. See if we can get him down here.
I'll
Throw
call
out
him
some
out.
more threats. Some vague threats.
But he's not the only artist on this book either. Because at some point, he does get really busy with like the movies and stuff coming out. And there are fill-in artists.
Yep.
One of the artists actually doing a very good job at somewhat recreating his style, but still has his own flair to it, is
Duncan Fegredo.
He does an amazing job at kind of, well, exactly what I said. He takes kind of Mignola's kind of sketchiness and simplicity, but still like throws his own detail and flair to it too.
Yeah, it definitely becomes more detailed, yet it still captures like the very kind of bare bones style of Mignola's artwork.
Yeah.
We should talk a little bit about the storyline. Anyone who's unfamiliar with the character, if that's such a thing.
Noobs.
So, Hellboy was summoned to Earth as an infant during the end of World War II.
Yeah.
By Rasputin. The Rasputin. You know, from the lore.
From Russian lore?
Yes.
Is not everyone up to date on their Russian lore?
There's so much lore in Hellboy. Oh my god.
There's lore galore.
I was just trying to think of something wonderful to rhyme with it.
In your face! Nice. In your face!
Oh, I can't. We just cut it
should
there.
just end the episode there. That's as high as it's going to get.
That's it. All right. So he was summoned by Rasputin.
Yep.
From the lore.
From the lore.
Is kind of a last-ditch effort for the Nazis to try to, pull one out there.
Yep.
And baby Hellboy appears on Earth, but crosses paths with the Allies first. Mm-hmm. Meets a paranormal investigator / priest, Professor Broom. He kind of takes Hellboy under his wing, and he kind of becomes like a ward of Broom and the BPRD, which is a Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. Mm-hmm. And from then on, over the course of the book, he goes on various adventures, all kind of taking place over different spans of time throughout his life. Fights a slew of different monsters, from like the Baba Yaga, real things, if you kind of look up like folklore and the lore. And
I think he puts it together pretty well, because he takes like from a ton of different like Germanic, like
Norwegian, Mexican,
all, and just his own stuff, whatever, and just meshes it together. It's like, I think this is. It's not going to be like straight up adaptation of whatever this is, but it's going to be close enough, and nobody will tell.
It plays out very much kind of like a X-Files Monster of the Week episode, which, if you're an X-Files fan, those were always the best ones.
Yeah.
And these stories are told over a series of like mini-series and one-shots, where the mini-series really tell kind of the main story of Hellboy on his journey to his destiny, which is he may or may not be like the Beast of the Apocalypse who's been brought to Earth to bring on Armageddon.
Yeah.
So those are what you get with like the main miniseries stories. And then amidst those, released like just randomly throughout, the last 25 years or so, they do like these little one-shots where he just has these short little adventures, because he's been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorites? I've got a couple here that I've mentioned.
I like the Iron Shoes one.
Yeah.
But that comes like early on in the
and it's
thing.
like 3 pages.
Yeah.
It's the shortest Hellboy story.
I don't know why I like it, but I really do. There's a Crooked Man story I like.
Yeah.
And that's done by a different artist too. I have Richard Corbin.
Richard Corbin, yeah.
His art is like definitely different than everybody else's.
Yeah.
And at first, it kind of a little bit off-putting, but the Crooked Man story, I feel like his art works perfectly on.
Yeah, and that might be like the first American Hellboy story.
I think
too.
it is, because it's in like the Appalachian Mountains.
Backwoods Appalachian Mountains story.
Yeah.
And man, that Crooked Man.
So crooked looking.
So crooked! Oh my god, get some leg braces on. The Corpse is one of the short stories that gets a lot of attention.
Yeah, a lot of praise.
A lot of accolade.
Favorite.
And it ends up playing a huge part later in like the second half of the Hellboy timeline.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where he goes to investigate a missing baby, finds out that it was a goblin that took it. But yeah, he essentially has to go and bury this corpse, and he goes to like 3 different cemeteries and faces like 3 different challenges.
Yeah.
But that's a good one. I mean, like...
Yeah, it's good.
It's like a classic Hellboy story. It's not my favorite, but it's a pretty good... If you're going to give someone Hellboy and say, like, this is Hellboy, that's a pretty good example.
I would agree.
Of Hellboy.
I would agree with that.
Another good one, Wolves of St. August. It's pretty early, and I think it ran for 2 issues, and it's just got some really creepy werewolf imagery.
Yeah.
Little girl werewolf.
Yeah.
It says something like, God made me this, or some creepy little girl utterance.
Yeah.
And then I love how the main antagonist transforms, where he like slices his skin down the middle and then tears his skin away, and the werewolf, like this just fucking bear of a werewolf, erupts out of him.
Yeah.
And Hellboy proceeds to beat on him for several panels, as most Hellboy books go on to do.
What's the one where the lilies grow?
That's next one on the list. Fantastic. It's like we planned it out, but we didn't. Nature of the Beast.
I love that story.
And that also establishes this shadowy group of like conspirators who are kind of watching Hellboy's progression from child to adulthood.
Yeah.
Where like, is he or isn't he the coming of the apocalypse?
Yeah.
Like, we have to study him. We'll send him on these little tasks.
Yep.
And essentially, like, it was this legend that the descendant or the prophesized one would slay a dragon in this area. And if he was wounded, where his blood dropped, lilies would grow or something like that. So that all kind of plays up into it, but it's essentially Hellboy fighting like this weird snake-like dragon. He gets to the dragon, and it like wraps him up, and he can't do anything, and it wraps him around the statue of the previously fallen slayer of the dragon. The statue like cracks, and then the sword of the statue falls and stabs the dragon. Yeah, and the people that are like watching Hellboy to see like, is he the next coming? They're like, so what did that mean? Like, so is he? Yes? No?
I like that about Hellboy too.
Yeah,
like,
they never straight out say it, at least early on.
Yeah. Like, Hellboy is great because, like, he goes through these adventures and sometimes he's just bumbling through them.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, wins a few of them by chance.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very much not, like, skilled in his... He's a good brawler, but that's it. Like, that's his trait.
And he's not even good at that. He can take a beating, is what it is.
That's really, yeah. Hellboy, it just kind of was published whenever he wanted to tell one.
Yeah.
And it's a better book for that.
I would say so, yeah. And Hellboy is really kind of broken up kind of into like 2 big chunks, I would say.
Of his life.
Yeah. And like the first part, if you're familiar with the first Hellboy movie, that's kind of like...
Yeah, the movies play it out pretty well.
Yeah. The first Hellboy movie is really a lot of Nazi occult kind of stuff and some weird amphibious-like monster creatures that are in it. And that's like a good chunk of like the first half of Hellboy. At least the gist of it anyway. And it surprised me on my first read going through that he quits the BPRD relatively early.
Yeah.
Like in his career. And that totally throws me off because I got into it through the movies and through you just in like saying Hellboy's great, you should get it.
I did say that a lot to so many people.
They took his whole through line up until like the beginning to the end.
His what?
Through line. Like,
what the hell's that?
It's like his main plot, like story. Like anytime.
Why did you say his storyline?
Because I said through line instead.
You said it twice, and I thought you misspoke the first time. I was polite enough to not call you out on it. You say it again. I've never heard this before. I don't think it's a real thing. Through line? Through line? What?
So as we mentioned before, there's a bunch of other. Hellboy was in the BPRD, and within the BPRD, there's probably other characters you may have seen in the movies, such as Ape Sapien,
Fishman,
Liz Sherman, Fire Lady, and maybe
that's about it. Oh, well,
Johann Kraus,
yeah.
if you've seen Hellboy 2 anyway. But he doesn't really show up in Hellboy at all. Maybe for like brief appearances here and there.
No, and there's a couple other like really notable characters in the Hellboy series that never made it into the movies. I imagine they probably would have if and when, but probably they won't make a third one.
Yeah.
It'd be great, but I doubt it.
I don't know.
One of them is Lobster Johnson, who's like this phantom World War II soldier who's kind of like a Captain America stand-in, and he just speaks in one-liners, and he's just awesome.
Yeah.
So he's like the most one-dimensional character you could possibly create, but that's like his whole purpose is to be that like just shining star.
Yeah.
Roger, the homunculus. Yeah. He plays a pretty big role in like the spin-off series BPRD. Mm-hmm. And he's great in it, too. He kind of pops up in one of the Hellboy one-shots, I think, and then finds his way into kind of the main book.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple others, too, that they establish. One of them is Edward Grey, Sir Edward Grey, the Witchfinder, who's like a Victorian-era occult detective who is like the right-hand man of the Queen of England. So he goes on these crazy investigations. And he's almost like kind of a precursor for the BPRD. So I think there's 3 of those trades out, and I just read them recently. They're really good. So those are all kind of the supporting cast. A lot of them spin off into their own titles, which are not essential to the Hellboy experience.
No.
But they add to it, and they're good standalone, too.
Yeah.
I would never say just go out and read Witchfinder and nothing else.
It's
fine, but Hellboy's better. But if you read Hellboy, I would say check out Witchfinder.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of little threads that, intertwine. One nice thing about the Hellboy universe or the Mignola-verse is it's extremely well-crafted.
Oh, sure.
Where it started small, it's just Hellboy. And he's really one of the only people who writes it. He's like the consultant on the other books, and he's kind of a writer. He still's crafting the main storyline. So everything
the through line, some people would say.
I wouldn't. So everything that Hellboy's been building to for like 22 years is still like his vision, no one else's. It doesn't get convoluted or like, oh, let's go down this way, that didn't work, reboot.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. Like, it's all one story, one ongoing story, and as these other books pop up, they just add to it. You don't need them, but it just makes the world more expansive.
Great.
So that seems like a good place to put a pin in it.
Yeah.
For today.
So, pinned it.
Pin it.
Go to Pinterest and go do all that stuff.
IMPERIUS REX show at Pinterest. I don't know, is that a thing?
Yeah, .gov.
Never.
Doesn't matter. We're going to put a pin in it for this first episode of our Hellboy discussion. This has been IMPERIUS REX. We'll see you next week.